You can see from the slide here, this is the unorthodox guide to investment readiness. The subtitle here, and Simon will like this, it says, why use your own money when you could use somebody else?
Exactly.
Exactly. To demonstrate, this is a picture of me fulfilling my dreams with other people's money. Yeah, so I think what I'm going to say today, some of it's going to be provocative, some of it might even be controversial, but this is the gritty end of investment. Investment is not for the faint-hearted. So my name is James McMillan. I'm co-founder and CEO of Join My Nexus. And what we do at Join My Nexus is we build entrepreneurial tools to help entrepreneurial success. So actually you can go and check out our entrepreneurial skills assessment, our index, which you can use to actually showcase what type of entrepreneur you are in order to help get you invested. But what I want to do is I want to start talking about entrepreneurs. And if you were here right at the start of the day, Simon made a comment about failure. So I thought, let's talk about failure. Let's start there. Right. So I don't know if you knew, but 100 million businesses are created worldwide every year, and 90% of those will fail. That's just a fact. So you probably think suddenly your exciting idea now feels very small, within the big scale of what's going on in the world. But as you can see, if we were all successful, that would be quite a big economic growth for everybody. So some research from CB Insights last year actually showed that the #1 reason why startups fail is cash. So nearly 40% of startups reported that the reason that they failed was cash. But actually, I think if you start to look at some of the other reasons that are on this chart here about why startups don't succeed, things like there's no market need, I have a flawed business model, actually I didn't have the right team. All of those things mean that your cash will run out faster. So cash in itself doesn't make a business successful. If it did, every single business that had investment would succeed. And we know that's not the case.
I reckon they run out of cash because of no market need a lot of the time.
Perhaps, yeah. So there's another way to look at this data here. So if I flip the slide on, these are also the same reasons or the same things that investors are interested in. Why? Because they're the biggest reasons of failing the business. So it's obvious really when you think about it, that when an investor comes to you, they're interested in 3 big things. What's your team? Do you have the skills and capabilities to take this business to wherever it needs to go? And if not, is that investment somehow going to bring those skills or capabilities into the business? The second then is about market, what your competition's doing, your operating challenges. And the third then is about monetization. What's your business model? How do you make it work? What is your pricing and costing? What does it look like? And I think that's an important place to start for investment readiness. What do investors want to do, and what are they looking for in your business? I think then if you think about what makes somebody investment ready, what investors traditionally look like was probably this. So it was all about whether you have the right education. So we've got, it was quite nepotistic. Getting investment ready was all about who you know. It's not about what you know. It's about basically having the right rich connections. You probably needed to have the right university on your CV, or have a mate who had a rich dad who went to the university you went to. And investment used to be quite paternalistic. It used to be very much the investor is the smartest person in the room, not you, not your business. They know they're adding expertise, that's what they're doing. And so I would like to say it's not like this anymore, but that's not quite true. Things have moved on, but ultimately investment is still a very biased process. It's still a very human interaction. The world of recruitment's moved on. We're much better at actually not sort of using our prejudices when we're recruiting people. So investment, still very old school. It's still about the handshake. It's still about getting to know each other on a personal level. So if we look at what an investor wants today, These are the things that really motivate investors in the modern world. And again, not rocket science, it's pretty much common sense. The big thing is they're looking at risk. They're looking at, do I understand enough about your business to make a decision? And then they're also looking at the rest of their portfolio. So if you think back to that statistic that only 1 in 10 are going to be successful, an investor is looking at their 10 investments and thinking, which one do I think's got the biggest chance? The other 8 or 9, they're not expecting to do terribly well on. And so when they're looking at your specific investment, they're also looking at it in the context of everything else they're already putting on YouTube or plan to. It stands to reason it's all about, sorry, just go back on, about what will I gain or lose. What's important to them is the money. What do I stand to get from this investment? Also, can I afford to lose what I'm putting in? And then this one is quite interesting. What value will that investor bring that's going to enhance that gain? So often for an investor at an early stage, what they're looking at is, what am I bringing that intrinsically makes my investment more worthwhile? Because actually what I bring to your business is going to make my money go further than if someone else was to put their money into this business. Because actually they're bringing something special. They're bringing contacts, they're bringing skills, they're bringing expertise. So often an investor is also thinking about what's the value add. And actually at the earliest stage, it's also good to know that 90% of investors are also former entrepreneurs, so they've been on the journey, they understand how it works. The last bit then is, do I have time? Investors quite often are being bombarded by opportunity. Some investors I speak to say they get 2,000 pitch decks a year. If that's the case, and you've only got 365 days, how do you get through that volume quick enough? The answer is by not doing it very well. You are going to rely on your warm contacts and your introductions, on the people that have been put in front of you by people you trust. So that is the unfortunate reality. If I was to summarize all of that, not once did I mention anything about your business. Investors, it's all about investors. That's what they're thinking about. They're thinking about their own point of view, their perspective. Your idea is lovely, but it's a vehicle for them. So you've always got to have in mind about what the need is or what an investor is looking for. So I think it's helpful to know then, if you want to think about if your investment ready, what do we really mean by investment anyway? So yes, obviously cash, but actually we've spoken a lot today about the other things you invest in a business, whether it's time, energy, skills, contacts, expertise. As I said before, some investors are thinking about what is it they're going to bring and they're going to invest in that business. And it's not always cash. It could be their little black book. It could be that they're going to use something much more valuable than money, because as we know, the money doesn't make you successful, it's everything else you've got around you. I think, yeah, we can just put one more. So here's the plan, right? This is how you actually get investment ready. The first thing to do is really think about what is the stage of business that you're at. Am I a proof of concept? Am I literally just an idea? Or am I something more established? Have I got a product? Am I making some revenue? Or perhaps just not doing it as well as I'd like to be? And then depending really on your stage, I also like to talk about maturity. So you can be a proof of concept business, and you can be next to another proof of concept business, and they're not the same in terms of maturity. Let me tell you, Elon Musk, if he had a proof of concept business, would probably find it much easier to raise investment than you will, because he has a track record, he's able to demonstrate he's done things before, he's able to make and work those connections. So your maturity in terms of your experience as an entrepreneur can impact also how you evaluate what stage you're at. And really then it's about thinking, well, if we look back to the thing about needs and investment, I'm thinking about cash, I also want skills, I need expertise, I need help, I need support, I don't just need the money. Then actually there's lots of different types of investor that I could be targeting. There are angels, there are high net worth individuals, you've got institutional investors, there are free things like grants. Everyone wants free money. If you can get free money, get that first. That's the easiest investment you'll get. There's crowdfunding, there's bootstrapping it yourself, there's your own investment, there's sweat. You can get people to invest skills in your business in return for a little bit of equity sometimes, and actually that'll make your business go much further than a check will. So it's really important to think about what is it I need, where is my business at, what's most important, and then actually what's the type of investor that I want to kind of get hold of, really. What's the right investment for me at this stage? And then if you've decided all of that and you've really thought about, well, am I ready? Do I think I know what I want, what I need? The next part then is, what's the collateral I need to get that investment? You'll have heard it today, lots of different guises about whether it's financial plans, whether it's strategy. You need to be able to communicate to those investors what it is you are doing and how you're going to do it, and what you're going to do to use that investment wisely, and how you're going to pitch it to them. That's quite a lot, right? If I want to be investment ready, I've got to think about an awful lot of things about whether I am ready, what it is that really I'm ready for, because investment isn't just money. So I didn't lie when I said this isn't the easiest bit. It's actually probably the most complicated part of running a business. I do have an example actually of a business that raised proof of concept money on just some of this collateral. I did it myself for my own business. I raised £150,000 in an initial investment round. If you think, gosh, that's a lot. I can tell you I needed a 10-page strategy document, a 40-page business plan, 5 years of financial forecasts. To get it on just an idea, you need to be really ready. And I'm very fortunate that I've had a career. I was a chartered accountant, I've worked in corporate finance, I've run big departments at FTSE 50. So I was able to kind of walk in and say, look, I've got the skills, I've got the credentials, I've got the plans, I've got everything lined up. Do you want to invest in me? And they go, oh, okay, you've got my confidence. That's what I want. So it can happen, but really it's about balance. It's about what you need and being realistic, I think, about what it is you're trying to get and how you're going to get there. So I've got a couple of analogies. Getting investment is like getting married, only you're planning for a divorce. So not quite the same perhaps as most marriages. The idea is you are going to get in bed together, you're going to have a wonderful marriage, and then at some point you're going to exit. Like, that's what an investor wants. They want to get out, they want to get onto their next marriage. But you should approach it like a relationship. You need to court them, you need to get to know each other, you might want to try before you buy, you're going to share information, then you're going to sign the contract. Those people who do internet dating, if you've ever come across that profile where someone just seems desperate to have a partner, any partner whatsoever, that's how you can come across a small business. I just want an investor, please. Obviously, for an investor, they're like, oh, wow, that's intense. Do think about it like a relationship. But I think when you're thinking about getting into a relationship where investment is different, is that actually I approach it like buying a house. So you need something a little bit more structured. If you think about getting a house, and in this case, your investor really is your mortgage provider, they want to know, well, what conditions are there? How much furniture have you got? What do you need to buy when you get in there? Are you going to extend it? What are the plans for that? There's a lot of analogies there around how you could buy a house and do it up and then sell it on for more money. That's what you're doing with a business, in effect. You're creating value. So do think about it, about when you're buying a house. So how do you get your house in order? Well, I use 3 steps really, and I've kind of already covered them. The first thing to do is research. You really need to assess, what does your business really need? Is it money? Is it skills? Is it time? And what's the thing that's going to make the difference? And for me, then you need to grade and prioritize them. What's most important to you today? You can't do everything all at once. Take the time, take steps. The second part then is shortlist. So you need to group your investors by type. Think about who these investors are that you're targeting, who've got the thing that you need. And then going back to what I was saying about investors and what they want, think about what they want. Why would this investor want to be with you? What is their motivation? And does that align? Because if it doesn't align, you probably don't want them as an investor. It's not going to be good for your business. And then that's what you need to do. You need to grade them against your needs. Do that matching and really think about what's available. And then put your collateral together. So then what do I need to do to then communicate with those people in whichever form it is. And because you've got so many different things to pick from, you've got so many different types of investors and things, it's going to be a bespoke exercise. There is no such thing, sorry, as being perfectly investment ready. It doesn't exist. There will be lots of people who will go out and will tell you, you need a pitch deck that has these 10 slides and this thing. It's true to an extent. Those tools make things easy, but I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt, if you speak to 50 investors, 25 of them will pick on one slide and tell you that it's rubbish and it shouldn't be in there, and 25 will think it's the best slide and don't put it on your deck. It really is about personal opinion. So also don't be afraid when an investor says, oh, I don't like this. That's probably a good thing. That's like, okay, you don't fit what I need. So don't be afraid to kind of be your own person and define what good looks like to you. So that's kind of it for investment readiness. I have kind of my final top tips really are just research, do research. There is a lot of information out there. It's hard to navigate, I know. But get help, get support, you know, go to your local lab. They often have access to funding team that will help you navigate you through these things. There's lots of free support actually you can get. The second thing is focus on the team. You know, it really is about people. At this stage, people are investing in people to do everything you can to show your best self. And my final tip, which is probably the most important, is have an answer or a plan. Investors don't expect you to know everything at the earliest stage. They pretend like they do. They drill you like they want you to have everything perfect. It's a test. What they're really looking for are things like, if you don't know what your go-to-market strategy is, because you haven't got that far yet, it's perfectly okay to say, I don't know what that is. We think maybe at this stage that it's one of these three things. I've got a plan to test that. This is how we're going to approach it. This is what we're going to do. What they want to know is that you thought about that question, that you have a plan in place to answer it, not that you necessarily have the answer. So that's my top tip, really, in terms of that. And then, yeah, I guess, James McMillan.
Questions for Joe? Hands are up, James. You can manage.
I don't know if we want to do
you want me to?
stuff, or I can move around.
Okay, hands up. I didn't see it. There you go.
Well, no, you mentioned, you know, grouping investors by time, shortlisting. How do you go about finding the right investors for your business? Like, where do you go?
Great, look for my product. So, you know, what we're trying to do with my next is actually create a marketplace. The difficulties at the moment is that they don't really exist. There isn't like a one central source, unfortunately. So, if, you know, for instance, crowdfunding is the right kind of option, if that feels like right, you've got the right kind of product for it, you know, there are crowdfunding platforms. If you're looking at kind of angel networks, there are organisations like the UK Business Angels Association that has a massive directory of all sorts of angel networks and things. Unfortunately, it's what we used to call in the trade back in the day shoe leather. You've got to kind of get out in the street and walk and go and meet people and do the hard yards. So unfortunately, there isn't an easy answer to that. There's lots of different ones.
Well, I'll just chip in there. What people forget is, you mentioned the labs. Please, I don't know if you can share the actual email address. I've got a voice point anyway. I was going to say, just with things like the lab, you don't realize your taxpayers' money is funding all these people all around the country who have literally Rolodex of people they can invite you to events. All the universities have events. And because we're out of COVID, people go to things like meetup.com and just start signing up for all these newsletters. You're going to get a deluge of crap in your inbox, or just start filtering through which ones might suit you and start going around. And you may go to an event where there's loads of very interesting people, but not quite fit for you. They may know someone who they can introduce you to. Don't be afraid to ask that question. But also, as James alluded, don't act desperate. Don't be going to give me feedback, give me feedback. You will come across as needy, and it's just not comfortable for that investor either. So I don't work with this person because I'm just going to drain my time, and my own mental health is important too. So think about how they feel as well, and it's not always about you.
Yeah, just a quick one. I want to speak my idea in simple informal setting. And one of the things as well that was they offered 100% funding for certification of the business. I just wanted to know, for me that was okay, exciting that someone is interested, but thinking long term, I was thinking it's not going to work because I'm probably going to get that. So I just wanted to check with you, what's the best that you can offer when you're offering businesses that you can offer in this?
Yeah, that's a $64 million question. So the difficulty, so everyone's seen Dragon's Den, right? So, when they do that thing when they say, well, I'm looking for, £100,000 and 5% of the business. And they go, that's ridiculous, it's not worth that. I'll take 40%. That's what it's really worth. And then what happens is another dragon chips in, and then they say, well, I'll offer 30. And then suddenly, valuation goes out the window. It's got nothing to do with the number. It's about what someone's willing to accept or what you're willing to offer. Valuation is really tricky at the earliest stage because you're valuing something that doesn't really have value. So what happens is, because we're human, we like to create mechanisms so that we can justify the value. The reality is, if someone was coming to me and saying, I want 60% of your business, that is a heck of a lot. And I would be expecting them to do a heck of a lot of that. I mean, for 60%, I'll give away 60% of my business if you'll run it and sell it for me. And then I'll just make the 40%, no problem. Very happy. But I just that way, like it is that way. There's not a huge amount of benchmarks out there. There's some studies, if you do some Googling, you'll find that there's often quite a lot of benchmarks around what sort of percentages you tend to give away at the early stage. I would focus on that rather than valuation, because what they'll do is they'll tie up your numbers and say, well, we think this is worth that, so if I'm putting that money in. The reality is, if you're putting this money in, and we give you a percentage, we're going to make the business worth something in the future, and hopefully you'll make some money out of that. So there is some maths there around, if I give you 20% now, and you want to make 5 times your money, then the business needs to be worth a certain amount in 5 years' time. So that's kind of where the valuation starts to come in. But yeah, not an easy one. And I wouldn't be afraid of just going and having a laugh.
Yeah, I think
so I just want to add something here. In my opinion, there is no right people. Okay, so doesn't exist right choices. At the end of the day, we need to believe that we can build the right people. We need to think about good training, passion, and same vision. Like that, we can build great relationships. In short words, in real life, we have to be creative while partnering with others and be open-minded enough to discover ourselves during the whole process, and be able to understand that other people have different perspectives. So like that, we'll be more able to create a business to succeed. So on the end of the day, I just wanted to say that we are not going to find the right business angel or something like that. We just need to be open-minded enough to get to know people and ourselves. Yeah.
No, I think that's a really great point. When we talk about the right investor, I'm talking about the right fit. It is about that connection. And I'm not saying your best friends with your investor, that's not a good idea either. But you should have a good relationship with them. You should be collegiate. You should have you should like each other. That's not always true. I know some investors and entrepreneurs who always hate each other, but the value is in what they bring and they get that. But they know that's what they're getting into, and they've got to manage that relationship in order for this to be successful. Very rare but true.
Thank you, James. We're going to have to. But before we do, tell us about your entrepreneurial games. This is fascinating. I've had a go at it, and it's brilliant.
Yeah, okay.
So tell us about it.
So you can go to entrepreneurskillsindex.com. Does what it says on the tin. We basically created a business simulation app that allows you to play a business game, and from that we can score you on 9 different skills and personality traits of an entrepreneur. So these are things like whether you are a talented risk taker, whether you are creative, and personality attributes. It's not about whether you understand finance or marketing. So it's to help you understand what type of entrepreneur you are, so that you can develop and actually either improve the skills that you need or understand actually, I'm the creative, I'm not the person that's going to run the business, so that's the program, the conversation, you know, understanding actually what your strengths are and then building on those.
Sorry, Joe, what's the game called?
It's the Entrepreneur Skills Index.
Entrepreneurskillsindex.com.
Yes, that's it.
Brilliant. That's the one. And how much does it cost?
Nothing, it's free. We are bringing out an investment matching platform in the next 4 weeks. So, you know, keep your eyes peeled and sign up for the mailing list.
Thank you very much, James McMillan. While we're setting up the next talk, question.
Sorry, you mentioned that you received £100,000 Facebook idea there. Was it the case that that was from the first investor that you put your idea in front of, that you do a lot of shopping around applying?
Yeah, it's a great question. Really interesting. Actually, that 150,000 that we raised, I was introduced to somebody who has become the chair of our board. He was in Europe, he's a really experienced chap, and we were introduced, and I went and sat in a room with him for 40 minutes. I showed him probably half of my collateral. He wasn't interested in the content in a way, he just wanted to know it was there. And what that then led to was him then opening my doors to other people, saying, oh, I've got a friend who may be interested. That's how it works. Warm introductions are 13 times more likely to get you money. So just trying to just get moving in the right direction.
Are you saying that networking is really powerful stuff?
Networking is the one. It is the one. Absolutely. It would not anywhere without it.
And also don't forget, someone you meet today may not be of any use to you right now, but they could be amazing in 5 years' time. So don't be rude to people and think, oh, they weren't any good to know this about them.
That's enough, Alice.
Yeah, that's enough there.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everybody.